You're listening to Brick by Brick, a podcast by the Brownstone Experience. I am Felicia, and I will be interviewing women of color entrepreneurs at the table. We'll learn more about their entrepreneurial journey, lessons they've learned, and tools they use to remain successful. Enjoy. Alrighty, Dr. Latoya Clark. We are back. We are at the table now. And we're going to discuss all things business. Okay. And I'm so excited about this conversation because you own multiple businesses as well as are a practicing physician. And so let's share with the audience some of your entrepreneurial endeavors that you have going right now.
So outside of being a full-time OBGYN, I also specialize in addiction treatment. Particularly opioid dependency treatment. And so I co-own 5 Suboxone clinics with my partner from my OBGYN office. It's called Breakthrough Wellness. I also have my hands in construction. So I co-own a construction company with my husband, as well as I co-own a construction company with my cousin. And so we have a female-owned and run construction services company where we rent dumpsters and sell like pea gravel, dirt, those kind of things. And we'll soon hopefully have a concrete plant.
Nice. So very diverse experience. I don't know how opposite you can be in the world, right? In the medical world, and then we talk about concrete and pea gravel. Here for it. And so let's talk a little bit about entrepreneurship in the medical world. Right. And so our young ladies, young men, we go to medical school, we go to college, and we don't often think about, well, and like I teach my daughter now, well, a doctor or a dentist, they are entrepreneurs as well. What was your experience in transitioning into the real world once you've, completed, you're fully ready to practice from an entrepreneur standpoint?
So once you go through medical school, you come out of training and residency knowing how to take care of a patient. You know how to diagnose a patient, how to prescribe for a patient. You may know how to do surgeries, but the one thing you don't learn is that medicine, unfortunately, it is a business. And so you don't get any kind of business training. You don't learn about payroll tax. You don't learn about staffing. You don't learn about coding and billing and reimbursements and all of those things in medical school. And so for me, I was very fortunate that coming out of residency, I went into an employed physician practice. So my practice is actually owned by the hospital. And so I still had somebody to help with the business side of medicine until I was able to learn, okay, this is what this is how you code, this is how you get reimbursements, this is how you manage staffing. I've been able to learn that as an employed physician. A lot of physicians come out and they go into private practice, and so they're having to learn all of these, business terms and taxes and all of those things really without any formal training. And so you could see where there is a lot of doctors that come out and really make a lot of business mistakes because they haven't been formally trained, and nobody is really looking to train them because they are an exposed population that people can take advantage of. And so one of the things that I think would be really helpful is if we included some business training in medical school.
Absolutely. Yeah, they have dual programs, right, where you can get an MBA. But even in listening to you, Toya, I've been in higher education. Even an MBA won't teach you the specifics of running a clinical office.
It does not. I mean, it helps. And not that you actually have to have a degree in it, but you can learn about business without actually having the degree. You can seek out other entrepreneurs in your area. You could network with other business owners and learn those things, because a lot of things that you're going to learn is not going to be in the book. It's going to be what's happening with experience. It's going to be happening what's in real life. It's going to be what the book didn't tell you, but the accountant told somebody that then could share with you. And so as an entrepreneur, it's very important to network with other, business owners, and those business owners that have been in business for a long time. Those have been successful and able to sustain themselves.
Yeah. Are there any programs out there that are specific to helping aspiring medical entrepreneurs, sort of learn the ins and out of running a clinical office?
Yeah, absolutely. There are plenty of programs. There's plenty of books. There's actually also seminars that you can attend. There is just a wealth of information that's out there that can help, young physicians or even, people who've been in private practice for a long time and then all of a sudden their practice is not doing good and they don't understand why. They can go to seminars and they can actually hire consultants to come in and review their books and what's happening, their billing, their payroll, all of that, and strategize with them to be able to make their business more sustainable and profitable.
Awesome. So how did you decide what other industry you were going to enter once you became an established physician?
So things for me kind of happened organically. I knew that just doing medicine was never the goal. I'm very ambitious, and so even though I knew I wanted to be a doctor, I knew I also wanted to be a business owner. I initially wanted to own a hair salon. And so once I got settled and got my, really felt like I had a good handle on running my medical practice, I really wanted to open a hair salon. But at that time, I was married to my husband who's in construction. And so from talking to him and learning from him and going on his job sites and hanging out with him, that's when the first construction company came about. And so he and I opened that together, but he is a great educator. And so I am like a little student to him to learn all the things that he's trying to tell me and really listen to. Sometimes even when he's not talking to me, he'll be on the phone with somebody else and I'll be eavesdropping like, okay, I'm listening so that I am learning everything that I can. And then I'm able to use that in my company that I own with my cousin, and she and I can talk about these things and we can strategize how to make that company more profitable. Addiction treatment, it's not far from, medicine. So I feel like that's another, medical practice, that I have. And so I did some specified training for addiction treatment and I really enjoy doing it. I think, substance abuse, addiction, dependency is a very real problem in our society. I think that even down to the poverty level, I think, if we could get away from some of the strongholds that substance abuse has on our lives and on our kids, it just affects generation after generation. And so if we can break that cycle, I think, a lot of things in our communities can be improved. And so for me, that is a passion of mine. And so that company is just something that I enjoy doing. I love taking care of those patients. Sometimes even, other physicians or people will side-eye, patients who have addiction instead of taking the time to understand why they have that addiction, how to try to help them, out of that and what processes led to that addiction,
Yeah. So do you have to be a physician to open up the addiction clinics, or recovery clinics, or do you have to at least partner with one?
You don't have to be one to own one, but you definitely have to have providers that are trained to take care of addiction.
Okay.
Treatment, to provide the addiction treatment. You have to have somebody that has a medical background and training to take care of the patients, but you don't have to necessarily be a physician to own one.
Okay. The providers that you say to take care of the patients, at what level can take care of the patient? Can it be a nurse practitioner?
So, so I have, so starting out, it was me and my partner. We have since hired nurse practitioners to help us because we open multiple locations, and so we can't physically be at all locations at all the times. And so it could be a nurse practitioner, but a nurse practitioner or physician assistant has to still collaborate with a physician. Okay. So they can't just do it on their own.
Okay.
And so they have to, have licensing. They also have to go through special training. You can't just do it. You have to be specially trained to do it.
Okay. Okay. And I ask those questions because, again, we're talking about entrepreneurship, right? And we want to expose our sisters who may be interested, looking for opportunities to branch out from their traditional 9-to-5 roles. And so here's a tough question. In my opinion, it may not be tough for you. What are some of the lessons you mentioned co-owning with your husband? What are some of those lessons you learned? Because I would consider him more of a veteran. He's been in business for a while, right? Yeah. So what are some of those lessons that you've learned?
this is not specifically related to my husband or my partner because I'm very lucky.
Okay.
But nobody watches your money like you do. And so it's very important as an entrepreneur that you know where your money's going, who's signing checks, you know, what money's coming in, what expenses are going out, because nobody will watch your money like you will. And so one of the things that for me, that I'm looking at in all of my business, I'm looking at the books, I'm signing the checks, I'm, you know, looking at the purchases, looking at the credit card charges. And so I do that for all of my companies, even for my medical office. So even though the hospital has a billing department, I look at all my billing, I do all my, you know, submitting my codes and all of that, because nobody's going to watch that like you do. And I go back and double check and make sure things have been coded correctly and billed correctly. You have to be willing to educate yourself, and, you know, knowing how to get started, great.
Yeah.
Saying you want to own such and such a business is great, but you've really got to educate yourself on what it's going to take to be successful. And you've got to look at what other people have done that did not work for them and not make those mistakes. You've got to look at what certain people did that was really beneficial for them to help them sustain their practice. And networking is very, very important.
Yes.
One of the things that I've learned is not necessarily about where you are, is a lot about who you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's a lot about who you know.
You know, I was actually, one of my next questions was, what will be your own advice? So I think a better way to have worded that question was, what are some of the most valuable lessons you learned from mentors? Right? Because mentorship, I think, is key. I attribute a lot of my own success in any area to having mentors who have gone before me and shown me the way. So that was really more the question.
Another thing that I've learned is that there are no days off. When you own your business, there are no days off.
Yeah.
Even
Well,
vacation.
that's true. Yeah.
And it's really good to see people say, oh, I'm taking a mental health day, which is fine. It's great. But when you own your business, there are no days off. And everybody that you come in contact with, you are representing your company, your brand. And so you have to be really careful about the image that you put out. If you're rude to somebody in the store and they know you own this store, you know, those kind of things can really make or break, especially a small business. And especially if you are in something like retail or sales, you're always on. And so that can be hard sometimes, but you have to know that there are no days off when you own your own businesses.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And how do you balance that then, Toya? Because you're a wife, you're a mom. You don't. No such thing, right?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Do you treat yourself to, what is it? How do you
Well,
relax?
you know, I'm a party girl.
Yeah.
So when I reach my point, I need to get with the girls or my husband, and I need to go out of town, party, let my hair down. But even when I'm out of town, I'm still getting phone calls. I'm still checking this. But and that's just me. But that's how I like to travel. I like to party. I make no excuses for it. And so that's me. So you have to have your outlets. You know, I would say in my world, because I am full-time OBGYN and I take 24/7 call for my patients. So as long as I am in town, I'm doing all my own delivery. So I'm constantly on call for that. My work-life balance is not quite where it needs to be, but I had a goal. And so my goal was to accomplish certain things by 10 years into my career. And then once I would accomplish those things, then I can kind of cut back and change my focus and everything. And I have a partner that's really supportive of that. My child, he's very understanding of that. My children are very understanding. And so they support me in that. But I make sure that I show up for everybody. So my son's, you know, sports games, honors days. I try to every weekend do something with him, just me and him, to let him know, okay, mama had to work a couple nights throughout the week, but, you know, I'm going to give you your dedicated time during the weekend. It's even when I've worked 15, 16 hours coming home and playing basketball at night, you know, those kind of things. And then sometimes if I'm tired, you know, getting on the road to come see my husband and those kind of things, that making that extra effort to say, hey, I know I'm really, really, you know, busy work-wise, but y'all are still my priority. You're still important to me. And so they are very supportive of that.
Yeah. So, kudos to you because that is like laser focus. That's laser focus. When you talk about a goal of being a decade into your career and you've decided to focus in that way for a decade, I think that's a lesson. Yes. So, you bring up, the goal of 10 years, and I just think that's really commendable to be able to focus, and knowing that going into it. I really want to talk a little bit about, inspire or encourage. That's the word I'm looking for. Encourage entrepreneurs who launch out to really have that goal in mind, because we start, around year 2, year 3, it gets really rough, and then we know that statistics tell us it takes like 5 years for a business to really turn over and be profitable. What are some of the ebbs and flows you've seen throughout this time that you've dedicated that focus?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to find something that you're passionate about. It sounds fun to be an entrepreneur, own my own business, but you really have to find something that you're passionate about. So that way, when things are not going quite as well, you're still passionate about it and you're not just, easily ready to give up on it. Definitely your finances will go up and down. And you always have to have that safety net. You have to have that plan B. Okay. So if I don't meet my sales goal, this quarter, what am I going to do? And always looking at how can I use the system to help me? What credit cards do I have? You can get credit cards that give cash back, that do travel points, and those kind of things are very important to business owners because you can gas, travel, food, those kind of things that you can charge on your business card. And so learning like the tax laws for businesses are very important, and that may be something that could be a crutch for you until your income starts to get better again. And so really finding ways to have a safety net for your business so that when the things are not going quite as well, you can make it through that rough patch and then still being successful. And again, it goes back to no days off, so you're always thinking about what else can I do? How can I improve? How can I lower costs? Or how can I improve my productivity for my business? The people that you hire is also very important.
Yes.
With business. And one thing that I've learned, I am not a good human resource person. And I understand now why there is a whole degree dedicated to human resources. And so the people that you hire for your business can definitely make or break you. And so you have to be willing to recognize, hey, this employee is not representing my company well. They're not, doing what I asked them to do. They're not showing up on time, and being willing to let those people go and hiring people that are as invested in you doing well, and so that they will represent your company, your brand. They'll work hard for your customers or your patients, so that the business will continue to, be successful or sustained through those rocky patches.
Yeah, so keeping an eye on all of these things through the ebbs and flows, right? So when it gets hard, what is it? Is it my people? Once you found your passion. I am so grateful for the amount of information that you have shared today. I'm sure there were some takeaways in your entrepreneurial journey, really helping us to stay laser focused, right? Setting a timeline, and those things that we can check on our business from the ebbs and flows. So what are 3 takeaways, or 3 tools or resources that you use daily to remain successful or remain on your P's and Q's as an entrepreneur?
So I guess I would say 3 things. Number 1, again, going back to hiring and surrounding yourself with people that are really invested in you doing well, I think is key. It's going to be very, very, very important, because you can't be everywhere at all times. And so you have to be able to trust and know that the people that you've surrounded yourself with are really invested in you doing well and not trying to take you down. Networking is very important. So you've got to get out. You've got to connect with your chamber of commerce in your area. You've got to connect with other business people in your area so that you support them and they support you. And then I would say in this day and age, actually social media, if used appropriately, can really make or break your business. And so to the business owners that are savvy with social media, definitely use that to your benefit. It is great advertisement. It is a less expensive way to really get your name and make a name for yourself. So I think really using social media appropriately could really be a big asset to your business.
I love it. I love it. So don't shy away from social media, because I know it can be a thing, right?
You got to use it correctly.
You got to use it correctly. It's a free avenue if you use it correctly.
Absolutely.
Networking, getting out, getting into organizations, building a community of entrepreneurs, mentors. Huge.
Definitely.
And then hiring those people who support you. That's another topic that we could have a whole another episode on. What has been, and I know you mentioned that you don't feel like human resources is one of your strengths, but what have you learned, and do you think that the person really has to be fully bought into your vision, or do they have to be an expert at what they do? Which one do you think is more important?
I think they need to be good at what they do, but I also think they definitely need to buy into your vision, because my office managers, they know that I'm a workaholic, and so that if my office is closed on a Thursday, but they have a patient that calls the addiction treatment clinic and needs help, I'm going to telehealth with that person on the spot. We're going to make a way to get that person seen and not say, hey, we'll just come see you next week. Next week may be too late. And so somebody that has bought into my vision that really is an extension of me is very, very, very important.
There it is. That's the key. It's someone who is an extension of yourself. That's the nugget. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Toya.
Thank you for having me.
Again, yes. Until next time. And again, I just want to say thank you again. I appreciate you so much.
And kudos to you to all that you are accomplishing.
Thank you.
Is inspiring and amazing. So
thank you so much.
Well.
Yes. Thanks for joining. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate, like, and share so that others will learn about Brick by Brick by the Brownstone Experience. You can also learn more about our guests by going to our website, The Brownstone Experience.